we are having a great day. So it's really cold out right now. It's about 30 degrees and I'm getting ready to just load up my truck and put some landscape fabric in it. And I think I'm going to start mapping out down there, at least get a few rows done where my deer fence is going to go, and get it kind of ready. A lot of that stuff I won't plan out until about May 15th. But I do want to get it ready because I think the season's going to pick up quite a bit. We have a lot of warm temperatures coming. I'm going to be needing to harden stuff off. I have a lot of successions of things to do. I'll be needing to get my Lisianthus, my first round of snapdragons, and my stock in the field. So today, while I'm not doing any of that, I'm going to try to get some of that field done just so I have it done. I need to get all the landscape done. I need to get the deer fence put in, and I need to get the water system in. So I'm going to do as much of that as I can today, and then I'll just work on it in bits and pieces as I go. And then I think I want to like build something so that I can open it up and then come in and till, because by the time I do the zinnias and sunflowers, it'll get all weedy again, and I don't want to deal with pulling a bunch of little weeds out of all that fabric. So I've thought that this year maybe I would get the landscape ready, roll it back, and do my succession planting, and then I can like back up, till it, and then pull out more fabric and then do my succession planting, or just something like that. Or maybe I could even cut pieces to fit. I don't know yet exactly. I change it up every year because for the last, this is going into my 4th year, so for the last 3 years I've tried to like put as much together as I possibly can to like optimize space and all of that. But I found that being really crowded when you're trying to cut the flowers, and you know, I hold it down with big logs. I don't know. I've tried the landscape staples. I've tried very long staples. I don't know if just where the location of our farm is in a wind tunnel or what, but I need heavy things to hold down landscape fabric because I don't have the landscape layer where it puts all the dirt on the side, and I'm not about to dig up that much dirt to put on the side, so I just put logs along it. But sometimes I didn't leave myself enough space, so I was always having to walk over them, and sometimes I tripped on them. So this year I'm planning, because I have the space for the amount of flowers I need to grow, so I thought I would make the space bigger and just make bigger rows. So I'm thinking of giving myself, last year I had the tulip roll, and then I covered it with landscape fabric and put sunflowers in that row, and it gave me like this 6-foot area to work in, and it was just nice. I could put all my buckets there, I could put my tools there, I could walk around and work freely. So I was like, this is a lot nicer to have more space in between your rows. So that's what I'm going to try to do this year. And since it's all new again, I'm going to have to map it all out again. I am going to try to use my same drip line, but it might not like line up. So I'll have to get that figured out when I get to it. But for now, I'm going to get 1 big roll of landscape fabric, maybe 2, and I'm just going to throw them in the truck. So where my flowers are, I use the DeWitt Landscape Fabric Pro, and I've burnt holes into it. I do have this cheaper landscape fabric that I think I'm going to use on the walkways this year because it was easier to walk on. It didn't get as slick, and it seemed to actually hold the weeds down really well. But another nice thing about it is, since it wasn't the plastic on the edges where like things start getting unfrayed on the DeWitt, and then it would wrap around my weed eater, and then I'd have to clean all of these long strings out every time I weed eat it around. So this year I'm going to try this and see, because I think if I hit this with the weed eater, I think what's going to happen is it's just going to hit it and cut it. It doesn't have the stringy like plastic lines, like the woven plastic like the DeWitt does. I love the DeWitt fabric for my plants, but this stuff is just softer. It was easier to walk on. It didn't get as slick. The weeds didn't grow up through it. I used it around my sunflowers in that row I was talking about last year. And I have 2 rolls of it. So a company accidentally sent that to me instead of the DeWitt. And then I wrote them and I said, this isn't DeWitt. Well, it was like a DeWitt, but it wasn't what I wanted. And I said, this isn't what I ordered. And they actually just told me to keep it, and then they sent me the actual DeWitt that I ordered because they saw that they were in the wrong. So then I was like, what am I gonna do with this fabric? So I'm gonna go ahead and use it this year. Maybe I'll be able to use it again. I don't know. Maybe I can keep it up all winter on the walkways, and when it starts to deteriorate, just pull it up, and maybe I'll go back to the DeWitt Pro. Maybe I'll go to mulch. But this year, that's what I've decided to do. So I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna grab that, I'm gonna get down to the field and just start rolling it out and putting the oak logs on it. I'm gonna roll this right along my peony field, because then I will have nothing in between my peonies and my other garden. So there will be that entire line that I don't have to weed eat it this year. I will have to go around the whole outskirts, but I won't have all these middle sections of weed eating and mowing and all of that. So I'm just gonna get to it. So as you can see here, it is actual DeWitt. But it's paint-bond fabric instead of the kind that I'd ordered, which was the plastic with the lines through it. So I'm gonna try this and see how this works for me. Since I'm not putting mulch or anything on it, I used it last year on my sunflowers. It doesn't have, if you look at it here, it really does seem quite nice. It doesn't have that furry side to it or anything like that. And see how the edges where I cut them with scissors, they don't get all frayed. So yeah, I'm gonna try this for my walkways. And last year I cut squares in it, and I put my sunflowers in the square. So I just cut out a big square and put a bunch of sunflowers in it and then left it. And it worked really well. And it doesn't have, like when you burn the plastic, it has real sharp edges. And if that like gets windy and it hits on your plant in any way, it can cut the stems off. And this doesn't really have that. If you cut like a big rectangle and then put your seeds in it. So I don't know, I thought of doing stuff like that, having little rectangles with just plots of plants in them. It might be a good way to do it too, because it didn't get real weedy, and it was easier to weed, because sometimes it's hard to get all the weeds out of those little holes. So anyway, those are just thoughts I've had in my head as I was doing it. But I'm gonna go ahead and get down to this field. It's really starting to warm up out here, so I have my layers on. I'm a Zone 5 flower farmer. Start off in the morning with a stocking cap, snow pants, 2 coats, and a shirt underneath, a bunch of gloves. And what time is it now? It's about 10. Time to shed 1 coat. Gotta transfer all the stuff in my pockets. Well, the cold got my battery. I'm gonna have to run inside and get a new battery, because that one just died and I've only been out here for a couple hours. Let me give you a look at my daffodils. The daffodils over here that I planted last fall are doing a lot better than the daffodils I planted along the ditch. I don't know why, because those have been here like 2 or 3 years now, and these are all just 1 year, but they look really good. I'll flip you around. I mean, they're small still, but I think this will be a really nice little display of daffodils as they expand each year and fill up the space. And then I can just mow it. It's gonna be so pretty. But right now, right here along this side over here, I'm probably gonna be a muddy mess. But where these daffodils end, yeah, this is muddy. Look at, something's been walking through here. But just right over here, this is what I'm talking about with this other fabric. This one actually isn't DeWitt, it's a similar one. The DeWitt does a similar thing. But all these lines fray, and when your weed eater gets caught in that, the edge of it, it just wraps it up and it hurts your weed eater. So that is the part of this fabric that I don't like. And if you did have it like covered with dirt, like over here it's covered with dirt, you probably wouldn't have that problem. So maybe I'm just the odd man out for experiencing that issue, because I have so many edges of this exposed because I don't put the dirt over it. I have thought about getting the tractor attachment where you lay your mulch and it puts the dirt on the side. I think that'd be awesome, but then you mow in between all your rows. So I could see how both ways would have their own little faults, and I think it'd be better to have some other stuff before I got that. So that has fallen down the list on things I want. But right now, I did till this. It's crazy to me how it got so tall where I tilled it. I guess it's just because you fluff up the dirt, but it was all even with this last year. And now look, it's so much taller than where this is. I mean, it's all fluffed up. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the other fabric to probably here and just put all of these logs on it. And then that way, hopefully all these weeds and everything are covered up. And while I'll have to deal with it along this row of peonies, look at these peonies, oh my goodness. They've been going through the 22 degrees too. And then you've got other varieties that are just starting out. So this row, they're looking kind of tall. Does this one have any buds? Oh yeah, there they are. They're in there. You've just got some that are already really tall, and then you've got others that aren't quite as... Yeah, it's getting hot out here. I have to take off my snow pants next. I've got other pants on underneath. It's been 15 minutes. It's about time. That's better. I have to take off this coat too. It's getting warm. I think it's just being in the sun. It says it's only 40 degrees. Feels a lot nicer than that. I'm starting to work up a sweat. I didn't think I'd need shorts today. I might. Okay, so now that I got my first piece of fabric laid, I'm going to take, I have these poles right now. So I'm going to take these and try to outline where my deer fence is, and then I'm going to use this tape measure, and I'm going to try to get it as square as possible. So the deer fence I did a whole video on how I set up my deer fence. I'll link it below. But pretty much I have one line, and then 3 feet in from that line I have my 4 lines that make up the deer fence. It's like a 3D effect. It's worked for 4 years. The deer did get tangled in the outer one, the one that's out 3 feet. There's just one line around it. 1 year that I've been doing this, and they've never bothered it again. And the inside one was completely unfaced, so I just had to restring the one line around the outer one, and they never got in my garden. So, but because I lay this landscape fabric, you really want it to be as square as possible because all of these pieces are going to lay on each other, and you want them to be square and you want them to be straight. So I kind of have a weird area here. So this part of the garden in years past, like over here did okay because I think it's in more sun, but over towards that end on the same side, like up there, it just got too shaded by all this stuff around here, and nothing ever really grew very well up there. So what I plan to do is my dad plowed lower in the field, and then I'm gonna try to, on the outside is gonna be my deer fence, so I'm gonna lose 6 to 12 feet because I want space on both sides of my deer fence. I want to be able to get to my peonies without running into my electric fence, and I want to be able to pick things, because last year as I was going along trying to pick my lisianthus, I had like a walkway this big and I kept getting caught up in the deer fence and it was just a pain. So this year I'm going to bring it in so that I have more room to work, but because I want it to be square, I don't really know where I want to lay my outer fabrics yet. So since I have one piece to work off of, I am going to go down. So right here is ageratum, and then I have bachelor buttons, and then I have sea holly, which the sea holly is just a little patch. I might even end up digging that up and putting it out in the perennial field. I did throw some ageratum seed out last fall. I'm hoping that it grows over there and I can get rid of it up here. But this year it's going to be kind of a weird thing because I'm going to have to just do something in this area, like mow it or weed eat around it. So I'm actually going to start the fence down where those end. So I'm going to try to make a square fence in the rest of that area. And then any dirt that's tilled up on the outer edges, I might go ahead and plant, not in fabric, and just put seeds down, because I can always mow it if it's not in fabric or there's no drip lines to it. I can just mow it. So I might do that on the outskirts to just kind of have a pretty little effect. I haven't really decided yet, but the main thing I want to get done is where I'm putting all my flowers that I'm going to sell this year. So I'm just going to go and try to measure these and put them out and get where I'm going to put my deer fence and make it square. Okay, so I've got, this is where the deer fence will run along here. These, don't mind these two poles. That pole will be like in the inside corner. So the outer one will go around and 3 feet in. Another deer fence will go around, and my rows are 100 feet by 68 feet. So I think I'll have plenty of room for my sunflowers, zinnias, snapdragons, and the things that the deer like to eat. So I don't want to do this way because I need to come back in here, and I'll just back up and I'll plow straight lines where the flower rows are going to go. So I need to leave one end open, and I don't want to drive over this fabric, but I can do the end line. So I think I'll load my truck up with a bunch of this wood, about 20 pieces, and then try to do my straight line down there, and then it'll start coming together. I might be able, I don't know, everything takes me longer. And I ran home for lunch and picked up a bunch of vases that somebody gifted me, and then I ran those all into the house. So I've kind of done some other stuff, but I didn't take my camera with me. But I am going to try to get that done, and at some point I'll drive the T-posts in for the deer fence. I'll probably just do the corners for now, and then I'll have to run some like in between to keep the slack in the fence tight. But I've got 2 done. Now I've got 1 more, and I have to leave this one open till the end. Okay, and I also wanted to mention, so if you see right now, even though the trees have no leaves or anything, look how shaded right here up to that fabric is. And it's only 2 in the afternoon, and that's kind of what I ran into. I just felt like the afternoon sun wasn't hitting this area. It does hit further out, but in here it doesn't. So I do have a lot of cleanup over there with my adroitum, my bachelor buttons. It might be tricky mowing around them this year. Maybe I'll get a rhythm going where I can leave a circle of them or something. And then over here, I might be able to do some shade loving things. I don't know yet, but I will figure that out later. Okay, so I was on the wrong side of my line, and I realized it when I was like, wait a minute, why can't I drive? And I was like, no. So I went ahead and flipped everything, and now I'm rolling out the rest of it. I've got all my 4 outside, so that is my deer fence will have 1 3-foot line going around the perimeter, and then 3 foot in from that will be the deer fence that has all the actual lines on it. So it's getting kind of late. I think I'm gonna call it a day, and it's starting to like get a little chilly. I might have to put my coat back on. This Iowa weather is insane. But I think I'll just get back out here tomorrow, and I will probably, I don't know what I'm gonna do yet, because I want to be able to pull my tractor in, so I don't want to put a line all the way around. But I might go ahead and put the line all the way around and then make my gate over there. I don't really want my gate over there though, so I'll think about that tonight, and then I'll make a decision tomorrow. But I can, now that I have these up, I can go every 8 feet and put another post to keep the lines tight. And then also I can measure and get my 4 outside posts on for the inside deer fence, and then I can go ahead and go about every 8 feet and put a post in for those 2. Once I have that done, then I'll probably start mapping out how much fabric I need. I was thinking I'll put, like, this will take up like 3 feet in from this. This is 6-foot fabric, so I'll only have 3 feet on the other side. And then if you overlap it with one of your landscape fabrics that have the holes burnt in, you want to overlap it probably a foot, because otherwise the weeds just grow up and they're a mess. So that would only, so if you overlap the 3 feet and you take a foot of your other one and overlap a foot, you're only going to have 3 feet to walk in between a fence and all your flowers. And I found that your flowers grow out a good 2 feet or more, so then you're walking in like a foot. So I think what I might do is get the posts all in where I want them, and then I might put another 6-foot piece of fabric in here, because I'll be overlapping this one by a foot, and then when I overlap it on the other side, that'll give me 4 feet in between my plants instead of just like a foot. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. I did measure it all out, so I should have enough to do that and have 6 rows, maybe 7 rows, 6 or 7 rows. It doesn't matter, because they're 100 feet long and I plan for them to only be 70, so I've got way more land than I need. So 6 or 7 of the burnt hole fabric, and it'll be amaranth and sunflowers at the bottom, zinnias, and I'll work my way up to the shorter flowers, because as you can see, I'll probably blind you, but the sun tends to come up over there and then go down over there. So I think if all of the stuff that gets taller is in the back, then the stuff in the front should get sun, the stuff in the back should get sun, and everything should be happy. And that's why I'm doing it this way this year. In the past I've ran everything this way, and that works when everything's the same size, but in my annual field nothing's ever the same size. Of course, amaranth gets super tall, zinnias get tall, sunflowers get tall, but then you got snapdragons that don't get nearly as tall as amaranth or a sunflower. And so I felt like I was always trying to figure out like different ways to not shade different plants, and every year they'd either be shaded in the morning or shaded at night. So I'm hoping this alleviates that problem. But anyway, that's what I was up to today on the farm. Tomorrow it'll just be more of this, and I'll try to get on and get you an update. I hope everybody's having a great day, and I hope to see you in the next one.